So since we last talked, you have had yourself a mushroom trip, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So, yeah, why don't you tell us all about that?
Yeah, so I guess I should preface it with my last experience, which was 3 years ago. Was the last time I took like a good amount of mushrooms to the point that I was tripping, and that was 5 grams in darkness, silence, all that. Um, this trip really helped that one come into context, which is very strange. Um, I was expecting like a whole different experience, but what I got kind of was a retrospective with a clear vision of kind of what it was, and not specifics like to the detail, but more so. Um, I guess the biggest thing was like you just like we were just talking about. You have to build up. Before that 5 gram, I only had a half an eighth experience, so I kind of just jumped the gun and dove right in, probably because I was just seeing YouTube videos and I was acting stupid and I was younger, and so yeah, it showed me that. But before that, so the 5 grammer, 3 years ago, I went through the whole preparation phase where I'm meditating, doing yoga, um, watching Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts talks, like reading trip guides, like all that for about 2 weeks before I dove in. And what I realized is that really colors your experience. And really is just, I guess in my view, and this is just my opinion, is really just a massive buildup of expectation. So anyways, to combat that, this time I was looking a month out, and I was going to do the same thing and do the yoga, do all the preparation that I've done in the past. And I think it was like a week into that month that I was going to devote to it, and I hadn't started, and I was looking at it negatively, as it's like, wow, I'm fucking this up. This is going to be a negative experience, that you're preparing for a negative experience. And I think it was some day that I was smoking or just thinking deeply about the situation. And it just hit me like that, what I just said, like I'm just building up expectation. There is no good or bad in that space from what I can tell. It's just an experience. It's just an experience. So instead of thinking that if I do, ABC, it's going to be a good experience, and if I don't, it's going to be a bad experience, I just said, I'm not going to do anything. And in that, I'm going to remove any, expectation, and I'm going to remove any idea that could be put into my head from an outside source of what is happening.
Yeah.
So I did that. The only thing leading up to it that I guess could color the experience a little bit was I read Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind. That was the only thing that was psychedelically focused, that I did before the experience, and I read that in like the 2 weeks leading up to it. I finished it like the night before. But another thing I did to kind of remove expectations, because that was kind of the goal once I had the realization, was to remove any expectation. And another thing that I did that was actually brought on by a conversation we've had on here in the past was the idea that back in the day, and I'm talking way back, there were no scales. You didn't know what you were getting into. You didn't know how much you were eating. It's not like, it's not like these like cavemen, or, even after that, it's not like they're like, oh, this is 5 grams. It was just, you ate what you had,
Mm-hmm.
and the experience occurred. Or the experience occurred. So what I did was I measured a bag out. I weighed a bag out that was 7 grams. And I did that well before even the month before. So it was ready to go. And 2 days before I left for this trip, because I did leave my home and I went somewhere out in nature and rented a space, I just eyeballed it. Didn't weigh it, and I just eyeballed it. And I just picked out what I thought was right, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, does this scare me? Does this not scare me? And at one point I had everything in front of me and I was like, oh, I need to put one back because that looks like it's too much. So I did that. Right before I left, I had my girlfriend weigh it for me just so I knew afterwards. I didn't ask for it until, after the experience. And yeah, so I took off. And I thought that I had, removed expectation to the highest extent and prepared myself for a good experience. And this was also my first time tripping alone. This was also my first time tripping during the day. So those are two kind of exciting things I was looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So I went ahead, and for some reason in my mind, I was just like, I was pretty far out in nature, but I was still on somebody's property in a rental. So I didn't want to take it in the heat of the middle of the day because it was beautiful weather out. I didn't want to risk having people around, I guess. So I took it, I woke up and took it at like 5 a.m. And I went to bed early the night before, woke up, lemon teched it. You helped me out with that, which I appreciate. And took it down at right around 5 a.m. a little bit after the sunrise was 7:30ish, 7 a little bit earlier. So I was like, this is gonna be perfect. I'll peak, and then like while I'm riding the waves, the sun will come up and it'll be beautiful. So I took it, and it was crazy, man. It gave me such a different perspective because the last time I had taken mushrooms was the 5 grams. So in my mind was this violent waves of experience of that, of the 5 gram that I had experienced in the past. I guess I just assumed that's what mushrooms were,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the farthest thing from the truth. And instead I had this like beautiful experience, no visuals or anything like that. I just laid in bed, put an eye shade over my eyes, and just like thought through things, things that were bothering me. Like just thinking about my family and how appreciative I am of them. My individual relationships with them. That was a really big thing. And then I just like, I don't want to say there was like a presence or anything like that, because what I really think is it just like very, very much amplified my subconscious, to the point that I was kind of like just like going back and forth with myself, But I guess you could say that there was something else there too that was just guiding the situation. But it was like a conversation within my mind. It wasn't anything like too scary. Everything that I could handle. And there was only one, I guess, major wave of the experience, and it was all just about my family and like how much love there is there. So, and then after that wave, I mean, it was still like I was still on mushrooms, no doubt, but it was definitely less than I expected just because of my previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, like I said, thinking through problems, and it was amazing. Like I would say, why am I this way? That is in my mind a negative thing, and it would just hit me back with like, because of this, and it would just make the most sense,
Yeah.
or like, why is this holding me back? And it's like, because of this, and guess what? You just have to be okay with it. Like that's you have to accept it. Like that's the problem, is that you aren't accepting it. So accept it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then the big one was like, what is this voice in my head that says like I can't, or no, or don't? And it's like, all right, give me a second, I'll switch it. Now it's I do, and I will, and I I'll go. And it's just like that. It's as easy as that. It was kind of like your experience, with the meditation.
Yeah, and LSD. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
was
it
gonna
was just
say
like,
that.
yeah. And it was just sorting everything out in a very, very rapid pace to the point that like by the end of like, 10 minutes after the big wave of the experience, after the 10 minutes where I was figuring things out, it was like, oh, I don't have problems,
Yeah.
It was pretty nuts. But yeah, so then, sun came up. It was beautiful outside. It was like the last good day of where I was, 70-degree weather in nature. It was beautiful. And like by 9 o'clock, which, in the 5 gram trip, 4 hours after I took it, I was, incapacitated. I wasn't able to even think about going outside and doing what I did. And on this experience, I went for a bike ride and like grabbed coffee and a breakfast sandwich from a local place nearby, and like went through these beautiful cornfields with trees changing colors, the leaves. And yeah, it was just, dude, it was amazing. Like I can't say anything bad about it, which like I'm trying to avoid being like overly confident about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And still remaining humble about the experience, but it was awesome. And so I went ahead, and because I was so functioning well, and like, talking to people, like ordering my food and all that, and everything went fine, is because of that. I was like, I, texted my girlfriend. I was like, how much was it? And she said it was like, I think it was like 2.3. So like, I was surprised. I was like, I kind of, I guess, would expect that to be more than what I had experienced. Like, I guess more meaning like out of my control, or like more able to have a bad experience, especially with the first time being alone. But all in all, I was just like, all right, well, this is a perfect dose. Oh, and another thing that I realized during the trip was that anyone that takes, like, how can I explain this? I guess it just was a perfect dose. Like, because I picked it out, because I didn't weigh it, because of all that, and because I took it, that made it the perfect dose. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
no number to it would have made it the perfect dose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. And like, it was incredible. I had some great insights. I think the biggest insight that hit me was that I was thinking about money a little bit, and thinking about the worry of it. And it was just like, and then I was thinking about money a little bit, and I guess it actually didn't come up until I started thinking about like hurt from people that have left my life and that were very close to me for a long period of time. And I was like, why does that bother me to this day? And it's like, and it just told me like time is is like the most valuable currency. So I think that's probably the biggest insight that I took out of it. And it was like, money doesn't matter how you spend it. How you spend your time
Yeah.
is really what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Like that is the most value right there, is time, is currency. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's it in a little bit of a nutshell.